from wherever you're watching us in the capital city of Nairobi, Kenya, and around the world. Good evening and welcome to tonight's live broadcast, the 12th of September, the year of the Lord 2022. Kenya is just a few hours from the inauguration of the President-elect William Samoei Ruto. Tuesday, Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, is expected to hand over the instruments of power, including the ceremonial sword and also a copy of the Constitution to the new president. Good evening once again. I'm not alone. I am with Betty. You always see her on the business segment. Betty, how are you?
Hi, Tom. My name is Betty Kiptum.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Good
I'm
to
bringing you tonight quite a special bulletin.
Yeah.
2-hour bulletin to just tell Kenyans what to expect tomorrow, the details of the incoming government, the outgoing government.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot lined up.
That's right. And remember that tomorrow we will be bringing to you those proceedings live from Broadcasting House. Good evening once again. My name is Mboya. Top in this live broadcast. Congratulations! Outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta welcomes President-elect William Ruto to the State House, Nairobi, thanking Kenyans for standing with him during his 10 years tenure. Taking stock of time, President Uhuru Kenyatta outlines his achievements, saying everything he did was guided by aspirations of the nation's founders. And just hours to a new dawn. Preparations complete at Kasarani, the venue of Tuesday's swearing in of Dr. William Samoei Ruto as the fifth. Many thanks indeed for joining us. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Mboya24, and Susan Thuku is in charge of our sign language docket. Straight to our top story. Outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta Monday afternoon hosted President-elect Dr. William Ruto, congratulating him for the first time after the August 9th general election. Speaking after the meeting, the outgoing president said that he will be handing over the mantle of leadership Tuesday to the incoming president, as he has been the tradition following on the footsteps of his predecessors. We open our coverage tonight with that report.
Outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta has for the first time congratulated the incoming President William Ruto following his election on the 9th of August.
My entire family and I join all Kenyans in wishing the very best to our next President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and extending to him our warmest congratulations for receiving the mandate of Kenyans to lead us as our fifth president. And so, Mr. President-elect, as you walk the path to your inauguration and beyond, you will be the president not just for those who voted for you, but for all Kenyans.
Speaking after hosting the incoming president in State House, Nairobi, President Kenyatta took the opportunity to thank Kenyans for standing with him during his tenure of office.
And I am profoundly grateful for the honor and privilege that you bestowed upon me to serve as the fourth president of this great republic of Kenya.
President Kenyatta said on Tuesday, as administration changes, it will be time for citizens to come together to pursue the promise of Kenya as destined by God. President Kenyatta saying he was going to hand over the instruments of power to the president-elect, who will be the leader of all Kenyans and not only those who elected him.
I will tomorrow, before God and you, my fellow countrymen, hand over the instruments of power to our new president at the Mboya International Sports Center, Kasarani. And with that, the fourth administration will come to an end, and the tenure of the fifth administration will begin.
The outgoing president enumerating some of his achievements, saying whatever he did, he was always being guided by the dreams of our forefathers of making Kenya great.
In all the work I have done as president, and in every presidential decision I have made, and in every executive action I have taken, in every bill I have proposed and assented to, I have been guided by the dream of our forefathers, and that is the dream to eliminate poverty, ignorance, and disease, and to improve the quality of life of all Kenyans.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Now, the Mboya International Sports Center Kasarani is ready to host the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gashagwa. Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho says everything is in place to ensure a successful event.
Monday. Preparation for the swearing-in ceremony in its final stage. The military have perfected their drills, cleaners ensuring sitting areas are super clean. At the dais, VVIP furniture is in place, adjusting the red carpets and testing of sound systems in preparation for the occasion that will see William Samoei Ruto sworn in as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya.
We've gone through every detail and are satisfied that we are ready for tomorrow.
Thousands of Kenyans are expected to be seated at the Mboya International Sports Center Kasarani by 8 a.m. Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho says dignitaries, among them heads of states, are expected to grace the ceremony.
It's open to the public. However, at the main dais, like I said, we have 2,500 slots that we will be inviting the VIPs. Like I said again, we are expecting a lot of VVIPs, in excess now of 20 heads of states from across Africa and across the world. We are expecting those, and therefore there will be elaborate protocol program here tomorrow.
Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gashagwa will also take oath of office as the second in command.
After judiciary action, which must happen before 2 p.m., then the rest can go on.
This will be the third time a swearing-in ceremony of a president-elect and his deputy take place from these grounds after similar events in 2013 and 2017. Another history will be documented as the 5th President of Kenya and his deputy take oath of office Tuesday. Kenyans are expecting the duo to live to fulfill their campaign pledges, top on the list being lowering of food prices. Irene Chuma Odim, Channel 1 in the county of Nairobi.
2,500 slots for VIPs, and of course it's a function that is open to the public as well. President-elect Dr. William Samoei Ruto should be handed over the instruments of power not later than 2 p.m. Tuesday during the inauguration ceremony. This is according to the Constitution that stipulates that the ceremony will be conducted between 10 a.m. in the morning and 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And as Kamchemeza reports, there will be another handover ceremony at State House, where outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta will welcome Ruto to occupy the most coveted house on Kenyan soil.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
Tuesday, 13th September 2022 is set to mark the end of an era and the beginning of yet another epoch. Kenyans are anxiously waiting for this historic event. This will be the third democratic transfer of power event in the country since independence.
Mkuu wa majeshi amemkabidhi Rais Mwai Kibaki.
The first one was in 2002 when the second president of Kenya, the late President Daniel Moi, handed over to the late President Mwai Kibaki. And the second one was in 2013 when Kibaki handed over the instruments of power to Uhuru Kenyatta. The process in the upcoming event is expected to be similar to that of 2013. According to the assumption of Office of President Committee, the process cannot be done later than 2 p.m.
As per the law, this must take place any time between the hours 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
From as early as 4 a.m. on Tuesday, The gates at the Moi International Sports Center Kasarani inauguration venue will be open to the public, who, together with other guests, are expected to be all seated by 10 a.m. According to a tentative program, service commanders will arrive at the venue at 10:30 a.m. Chief Justice Martha Koome, Judiciary Chief Registrar Ann Amadi, and Supreme Court judges are expected to arrive at 10:45 a.m. Chief of Defence Forces General Robert Kibochi arrives at the venue at 11 a.m. and 15 minutes later, heads of state and government will make their way to the venue. The Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gashagwa, accompanied by his wife Dorcas Wanjiku, will enter the venue at 11:35 a.m., just 5 minutes ahead of the President-elect Dr. William Ruto, accompanied by his wife Rachel Ruto. And as the head of public service and chair of Assumption of Office of the President Committee, Joseph Kinyua, receives them, the state motorcade will be leaving State House for Kasarani, set to arrive at 11:45 a.m. Just as was the case in 2013, the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta will be received by the Chief of Defence Forces, General Robert Kibochi, who will escort him to the ceremonial vehicle and onto the ceremonial dais. The national anthem and that of the East African community will be sung before Uhuru is escorted to inspect the guard of honor adorned in ceremonial attire. Once done, he will proceed to the presidential dais.
I shall now administer the oath of
At 12 noon, the administration of oaths by the judiciary to the president-elect commences, with Chief Registrar of the Judiciary Ann Amadi taking her position at the inauguration dais before inviting Chief Justice Martha Koome. The Chief Justice is the one who will introduce the president-elect to the nation and invite him to the inauguration dais.
The President-elect shall take the oath of office as administered by the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary before Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice.
One is the oath of allegiance of the President, which is pledging allegiance to the Constitution, and the other is the oath of due execution of office, which is solemn affirmation of due execution of the office of President.
Constitution.
In accordance with this Constitution.
As by law established.
As by law established.
And the laws of Kenya.
And the laws of Kenya.
Without fear.
Without fear.
Favor.
Favor.
Affection.
Affection.
Or ill will.
Or ill will.
So help me God.
So help me God.
While at the inauguration dais, President-elect will sign the certificate of inauguration in the presence of the Chief Justice. At this point, the Chief Justice will introduce the incoming president to the nation and present a set of oath of allegiance, oath of due execution of office of the president, and the certificate of inauguration to the incoming president.
And I invite the Honorable Chief Justice to witness.
A similar administration of oaths process will be undertaken for the Deputy President-elect, Rigathi Gashagwa. A ceremonial photo session for the incoming president and his deputy president will then be held, where the outgoing president will be invited to the dais as the incoming deputy president takes his seat at the VVIP dais. The presence of the outgoing president at the inauguration dais signals the beginning of the handing over of the instruments of power and authority. The CJ will lead the process, where outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta will hand over the instruments of power to incoming President Dr. William Ruto. They include the Chief in Commander's ceremonial sword and the Constitution. Uhuru will then confer the award of Chief of the Order of the Golden Ear, CGH, to incoming President William Ruto, which will then be followed by fanfare, where clergy will perform a ceremonial prayer and the national anthem, during which Uhuru's presidential standard will be lowered as Ruto's is hoisted simultaneously. At 21-gun salute will follow. Then Uhuru will be given his presidential standard by General Kibochi. The guard of honor marches off. This will be followed by the speeches. The outgoing president will then depart for State House. President William Ruto will then be escorted to the ceremonial vehicle by General Kibochi before he departs for State House. At State House, the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta and former First Lady Margaret Kenyatta will receive President Dr. William Ruto and the First Lady Rachel Ruto at State House, Nairobi. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
Now, the presidential standard flag is usually the symbol of the head of state and flies in any venue where the president is, and always on the right on the official vehicle of the president and the national flag on the left. While Kenya adopts 3 colors for the presidential standard, namely blue, green and white, President-elect has settled for green, bearing a shield with the colors of the Kenyan flag and 2 crossing spears.
One of the significant things that will happen after the swearing in of William Ruto as President of the Republic of Kenya will be the lowering of President Uhuru Kenyatta's blue presidential standard flag and the hoisting of Ruto's green presidential standard flag. But what exactly is a presidential standard, and how was it used in the previous administrations? A presidential standard flag is usually the symbol of the head of state and is hoisted in any venue where the president is, and always on the right side on the official vehicle of the president, and the national flag on the left. The colors of the presidential standard are 3, namely blue, green and white, and are used successively. The late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was the first to use the presidential standard, which normally has a shield donning the Kenyan flag colors and 2 spears crossing each other. However, the late Mzee Kenyatta used the symbol of a cockerel or jogo, the party symbol of Independence Party KANU. The second president, the late President Daniel Moi, adopted almost the same presidential standard, only that this time it was green in color. The late President Mwai Kibaki, after assuming power in 2002, adopted a white presidential standard with a shield in the middle and crossing spears. However, President Kibaki changed the design a bit by imposing the shield between 2 olive branches signifying peace. Outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta adopted the blue standard by the deep blue shade with a shield bearing Kenyan colors and 2 crossing spears, but adopted a dove, the party symbol of his TNA party in 2013 and now the symbol of his Jubilee party. While President-elect has picked the green presidential standard that will bear the shield and crossing spears, he will definitely pick his favorite symbol or his UDA party symbol to appear in the standard. John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
And here's the thing, once the change of guard between outgoing head of state Uhuru Kenyatta and incoming President William Samoei Ruto takes place at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, the final ritual will then take place at State House, Nairobi. Jackie Wambiru tells us of the final moments just before the outgoing head of state vacates the house on the hill.
Uhuru, I, Jomo Kenyatta, being chosen and admitted to the cabinet in Kenya.
On 1st June 1963, Jomo Kenyatta was sworn in as the Prime Minister of the autonomous Kenyan government. In December 1964, Kenya was officially proclaimed a republic. Mzee Kenyatta became its executive president, combing the roles of head of state and that of head of government. When Jomo Kenyatta died on 22nd August 1978,
Mimi Daniel Doroitich Arab Moi naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Vice President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi was sworn in as the acting president for the next 90 days. Per the Constitution, a special presidential election to pick the leader to spearhead Kenya for the remainder of Jomo Kenyatta's term was to be held on 8th November, that is within 90 days of his death. It was the first presidential election to be held alone without the parliamentary election. Moi was the sole candidate and was automatically elected without a vote being taken. December 30th, 2002 at Uhuru Park, the late President Daniel Toroitich Moi handed over the instruments of power at Uhuru Park after his 24-year rule to the late President Mwai Kibaki.
Mgeni wetu,
Commander-in-Chief, karibu.
Mimi Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu.
After the swearing-in ceremony of Kibaki as Kenya's third president, Moi exited from Uhuru Park and went back to State House, where a Kenya Air Force helicopter was on standby to fly him from the house on the hill or the seat of power. A battery of loyalists was on hand for the final ritual. Moi emerged from the State House main door and marched briskly to the waiting chopper for that final trip to Kabarak, his private and retirement home. And just as the Kenya Air Force helicopter was waiting to lift Mzee Moi out of the green lawns of State House and begin a symbolic final flight marking the end of his 24-year reign, Dr. Salikos Gay, who was the head of civil service, stood by weeping quite evidently. A while later, Moi boarded the chopper and embarked on a journey to his Kabarak home, marking the end of his tenure as Kenya's second president.
Nashukuru sana mzee. Asante sana. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Your Excellency.
On April 9, 2013, Kenya's third president received President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House, where he later bade State House farewell at a dinner hosted by his successor. The former president left State House for his Muthaiga residence after 10 years in power with last-minute speeches, pleasantries, and it was the last meal for Kibaki as the third president of the Republic. Before he was escorted by the country's incoming President Uhuru Kenyatta and other dignitaries to a waiting civilian car. But before he could leave, a hearty send-off for those who served under him as Commander-in-Chief and as President, all wishing him well and thanking him for what they termed as a smooth 10-year tenure. Kibaki left for his Muthaiga residence as he awaited to leave for his retirement home in Mboya, Nyeri County. On 13th of September, after his inauguration, President William Samoei Ruto is expected to be received by his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta at State House. Upon meeting with his predecessor, the outgoing president will then vacate the premises, signifying that a new administration has officially ascended to power. Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Now, Azimio leader Raila Odinga will skip Tuesday's swearing-in ceremony of Dr. William Ruto as the fifth president of Kenya. Raila is out of the country. Now, Tom Mboya, my colleague, is standing by on the other side of the studio to just break down this story for us. Tom?
You're absolutely right. Raila Odinga has turned down President William Ruto's invite, and some of the reasons he's giving, one, as Betty indicated there, is that he's out of the country, and he's also saying that he has some very serious issues that require his attention, and therefore he will not be available. The other point he makes is he believes that IEBC, the body that is charged with the responsibility of conducting elections, free, fair and credible elections, did not conduct a free and fair election. The other point he makes is he believes that the ruling of the Supreme Court was not based on facts and law as well, even though they accepted it. They meaning him and his Azimio team. And so he indicates that he's out of the country, and the outcome of the elections, as far as Right Honorable Raila Odinga is concerned, remains indeterminate. Okay? And he goes ahead and says that upon his return, he will jointly with other Azimio leaders announce his next steps as they seek to deepen and strengthen the democracy in Kenya. And that is Raila's statement on Ruto's inauguration. Tomorrow, he will not be available. He's out of the country. He indicates that he's attending to certain special issues that require his attention. His position is that the outcome of that election remains indeterminate. He will come back and give a way forward for the Azimio team. And that announcement should be coming sometime next week. And the whole idea is that they seek to deepen and strengthen the democracy in this beautiful Kenya. Betty Kiptum.
Yes, Tom, thank you for that breakdown. Now, the 2022 presidential race was the most hotly contested in Kenya's history. William Ruto, who won the race to become the country's 5th president, has made history by becoming president in his first stab at the seat. Ruto, who was deputy president for 10 years, garnered 50.49% of the votes, narrowly beating his rival Raila Odinga, who managed 48.85% of the votes. Take a look.
The August 9th, 2022 Kenya general election will go down in history as one of the highest stakes ever, with the presidential race being tighter than in previous polls. After being second in command for 10 years under President Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto decided to go for the top seat in the land. It was his first attempt. He settled for Mathira MP Rigathi Gashagwa as his running mate under the United Democratic Alliance ticket. And the duo immediately unveiled their manifesto.
We believe as Kenya Kwanza that investing in agriculture will give us not just employment, it will also give us foreign exchange, it will give us it will eradicate hunger. It will expand our incomes. It will also expand our industrialization agenda.
Ruto and Gashagwa were up against 3 other candidates, Raila Odinga and Martha Karua of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance, Mwaure Waihiga and Ruth Mutua of Agano Party, and Professor George Wajakoya and Justina Wamai of Roots Party, all seeking the endorsement of 22.1 million registered voters. Come the D-Day, and the exercise was termed as the most peaceful in recent past, albeit the low voter turnout witnessed of about 65.4%. And after 6 days of waiting, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC made the final declaration on the presidential race.
Hereby declares that Ruto William Samoei of ID number 6847208 has been duly elected as the president.
The results were, however, contested by 4 IEBC commissioners who claimed the final verification and declaration exercise was opaque and declined to endorse them.
The 4 of us, we are here, not at Bomas of Kenya, where the result is going to be announced, because of the opaque nature of how this phase has been handled.
Thereafter, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance presidential candidate Raila Odinga and 7 other petitioners moved to the Apex Court challenging the results.
We work as a team.
The 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court will be tasked with hearing the 4th presidential petition since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. They consolidated the petitions to 1 and narrowed down the areas of determination to 9.
As a consequence, we declare the election of the first respondent as President-elect to be varied under Article 143 of the Constitution.
On 5th September 2022, Chief Justice Martha Koome-led court announced a much-anticipated verdict.
We find that the petitioners did not provide a watertight case to warrant the setting aside of the results of the presidential election on the basis of not having met the threshold provided under Article 138(4)(a) of the Constitution.
The Supreme Court confirmed that Ruto won with 50.5% of the vote compared to Raila Odinga's 48.9%, a difference of about 233,000 votes. With that settled, William Ruto will on Tuesday, September the 13th, 2022, be sworn in as 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, while Rigathi Gashagwa will take oath of office as Deputy President.
My administration shall do justice to all, regardless of their social status, religion, ethnicity, gender, whether they voted at all or whom they voted for.
For Prime Edition, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
That story by Ben Troy takes us to our first break. But before we go on that break, remember you can interact with us on Twitter. We are at KBC Channel 1 at Tom Mboya 24, and my personal handle is at Betty Kiptum. Apostle Martin Mutwiri, you say the new president has a lot to achieve, including lowering the cost of living. We shall be telling you a little bit later just what challenges President Ruto, or rather the President-elect, will be facing when he comes into power, and just what will happen to ensure that he delivers those promises. But on the other side of studio, Tom, what do we have for our viewers when we come back from the break?
You know what? I mean, the president has politically outsmarted a lot of his competitors to become Kenya's fifth leader since independence. So we will take a short break, but when we come back, we will dig deep into the journey of the fifth, where he started selling chickens all the way to the top job, the house on the hill. So do stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
There's a new game in town. It's a game like no other. It's captivating. It's fun. Entertaining and refreshing.
Which year was the film released?
Correct answer.
Don't miss out on the Second Chance television game show, premiering on Channel 1.
I, Jomo Kenyatta, mimi Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, Mwai Kibaki, naapa kwamba
I, Uhuru Kenyatta,
Kate anajua kila kitu kuhusu ishu ya Jackie. Hebu tazame tu vile alikuwa wasiwasi. Mama, siwezi kusema ndo niliumiza.
Najua kwamba wewe ndo ulimteka nyara Jackie. Na sasa yuko huko ndani una wasiwasi hata usingizi upate.
Babako ataka kuwaona watu wako, lazima aone.
Mbona nakisia kama ambaye uhusiano wako wewe na hii familia ya Diva unaelekea karibia mwisho?
Welcome back. Now, he will go down in Kenya's history as the only politician of his era to vie for the presidency and win on his first attempt. From a chicken vendor and farmer to Kenya's fifth president, William Ruto's career has been on an upward trajectory, with his undoubtedly political brilliance putting him ahead of the curve. We peel back the veil on Ruto's career so far as he assumes office as the fifth president of the Republic of Kenya following his win in the August 9th poll last month. Tom, could you just break down the profile of Dr. William Ruto, please?
Oh, yes, yeah. In fact, I was just doing some mathematics because I noticed at the age of 32, he was already an assistant minister in the office of the president. But let's start it here. Born in 1966 on the 21st of December in Kamagut, that's in Uasin Gishu. In 1992, joined Youth for KANU, a political youth lobby, if you can remember, ahead of the 1992 general elections. That was the team that had a number of young people within who were charged with the responsibility of campaigning for the then President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. In 1997, he was elected the Eldoret North constituency member of Parliament. A year later, as I indicated there, at the age of 32, he was appointed Assistant Minister in the Office of the President. And in 2002, in the elections again, he went for the election, retained the Eldoret North constituency parliamentary seat. The same year, he was appointed Minister for Home Affairs. 3 years later, in 2005, he was elected KANU's Secretary General. If you can recall, Uhuru Kenyatta, the outgoing president, was elected as the chairman. And in the next slide, 2005, actually it's the same year, he joined Raila Odinga in opposing the constitutional referendum. If you can recall the banana and the orange. 1 year later, announced his ambition to vie for the presidency. Okay? This is the first time he is announcing his ambition to vie for the presidency in the 2007 general election. In 2007, he was re-elected for the second time to represent Eldoret North constituency in Parliament. The same year, of course, ODM lost the elections to NAC's Mwai Emilio Kibaki. We all recall the 2007-2008 post-election violence. But between 2008 all the way to 2010, he served as a minister, and he was in charge of the agriculture docket. In 2010, if you remember, he was transferred to the Ministry of Higher Education, but later on suspended. Okay? 2 years later, his URP party merged with Uhuru Kenyatta's TNA, the National Alliance Party. 1 year later, in 2013, he became the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. 2017, the Uhuru-Ruto ticket successfully ran for the second term in office. We remember that year, there was a petition, there was an annulment, and Right Honorable Raila Odinga declined to participate because he felt that it was not conducive for them to run. In 2022, he was declared President-elect by the Supreme Court. So September 13th, 2022, that's tomorrow, we wait for the inauguration of the 5th Dr. William Samoei Ruto. And you know, we will be covering all those proceedings live. So I'm sure you will all make sure that you tune in tomorrow. The entire day we will be pitching camp at the inauguration venue, just to make sure that we bring to you blow-by-blow account of all those events as they unfold. Betty Kiptum.
Thank you, Tom, for that. Now, a look into the life of President-elect William Ruto depicts a picture of a man keen on upsetting the status quo. His story tracing back to a humble background in Kamagut in Uasin Gishu, and not complete without mentioning a chicken seller. Ruto's first stab on elective politics was in 1997 when he toppled powerful politician Reuben Chesire, who had been endorsed by the late President Daniel Arap Moi at the age of 30. And on the 13th, Ruto becomes the first presidential candidate in Kenya to win the presidency on his first stab, and indeed the first vice president to succeed his boss. John Jacob Kuria brings you the rise and rise of Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya.
From growing up in a humble background in Kamagut village in Uasin Gishu, where he sold chicken along the railway line so as to take himself through school, William Ruto can be described as a perfect example of the rise from grass to grace. From his formative years in school at the Kerotet Primary School, then to Wareng Secondary School and Kapsabet Boys High School, young William Ruto appeared to be a man on a mission, cutting a niche for himself and proving to all and sundry the existence of infinite possibilities. Ruto would later join the Nairobi University for a Bachelor of Science in Botany and Zoology in 1990 a master's degree later, and finally graduating with a doctorate degree in 2018 from the same institution. But it is his political life that is more intriguing, detailing a pattern of a man who was keen on upsetting the status quo and with clinical precision. Ruto joined active politics in 1992 when the second president, Daniel Arap Moi, was seeking re-election and sought the support of youth groups, particularly drawn from local universities. Ruto worked under veteran politician Cyrus Jirongo, and both are said to have been very influential within Independence Party KANU ranks. It is instructive to note that of all the members of the YK92 disbanded by Moi after the elections, only William Ruto's star has kept shining. Despite being introduced to politics by President Moi and amassing a fortune while at it, Ruto went against Moi when he ran against the president's favorite man in Eldoret North in the 1997 general elections. Despite being prevailed upon by Moi to step down for Reuben Chesire, the then Uasin Gishu KANU chairman and assistant minister, Ruto defied Moi and the KANU machinery to beat Chesire. Ruto would later be appointed Assistant Minister for Home Affairs by President Moi. In the turbulent days of KANU, when Uhuru Kenyatta was endorsed by Moi to succeed him in the 2002 general election, a move that witnessed the defection of senior members of the party, Ruto remained in KANU and was made the substantive Minister for Home Affairs in the sunset days of the Moi regime. Ruto would be a key cog in the Uhuru Kenyatta campaigns, who was running alongside the then Vice President Musalia Mudavadi as his running mate. After the KANU defeat in the 2002 general elections in the hands of President Mwai Kibaki, Ruto played from the opposition benches as Eldoret North MP, assisting the then official opposition leader Uhuru Kenyatta. But in 2005, a bigger opportunity presented itself when the opposition teamed up with rebel minister within the Kibaki administration, opposed to the Bomas draft being subjected to the referendum. They formed the Orange Movement that roped in Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Uhuru Kenyatta, Musalia Mudavadi, Najib Balala and others, and went round the country campaigning against the draft constitution, handing Kibaki a resounding loss. In the run-up to the 2007 elections, Uhuru Kenyatta abandoned ODM to support President Kibaki's re-election bid, leaving behind his ally William Ruto. Ruto would challenge Raila Odinga for the ODM presidential ticket, but Raila trounced him and made both Ruto and Mudavadi the deputy party leaders. During the 2007 disputed election, Ruto would be key in negotiating the national accord on behalf of Raila Odinga in the Kofi Annan mediation team that had membership from ODM and Kibaki's PNU. After the Kibaki-Raila truce, Ruto was awarded with a powerful agriculture docket by Raila Odinga. 2 years later, Ruto would be indicted by the International Criminal Court alongside Uhuru Kenyatta and 4 others as persons bearing the biggest responsibility for the war crimes committed in the 2007 post-election violence. When Raila supported the ICC process, Ruto interpreted it as betrayal and started defying Raila.
I have not received any communication from the appointing authority as Minister for Agriculture, and therefore I will continue to discharge the responsibilities of the Minister for Agriculture until that authority tells me I should do otherwise.
That, coupled up with evictions in Mau Forest, spearheaded by Raila, and which Ruto deemed as inhumane and targeting certain communities in Rift Valley, was the making of the Ruto-Raila breakup. Before his exit from cabinet, Ruto had teamed up with fellow indictee Uhuru Kenyatta, running a Kibaki succession campaign and accusing the ICC of perpetuating imperialism.
Na ndio mwaka wa 2013 mwezi wa March tukiweza kuunda serikali tutaunda kwa sababu ya kura ambazo mtakuwa mmechukua.
In April 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto beat Raila Odinga, the outgoing prime minister. A renowned mobilizer with deep pockets and a gift of the gab, Ruto was instrumental in the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2017, beating Raila Odinga once more.
Wanamwambia bwana kitendawili, Uhuru Kenyatta ndio rais na mimi ndio deputy president. Watoto wa Kenya watafanya mtihani, my friend.
Trouble would foment after President Kenyatta closed ranks with his bitter rival Raila Odinga in the famous handshake. Ruto started to feel isolated from government, leading to full-blown proxy war between him and his boss from 2019. Though he did not attack his boss directly, his allies went for the president's jugular, accusing the head of state of betraying a bosom friend. Ruto would single-handedly oppose the Building Bridges initiative, a byproduct of a handshake that sought to amend sections of a 2010 constitution. Though it was the judiciary that finally sounded the death knell on BBI, Ruto's opposition was the stroke that broke the camel's back. President Uhuru Kenyatta declared that he would support Raila Odinga in the 2022 general election, deploying resources and efforts towards Raila's fifth stab on the presidency. Ruto, on the other hand, priding himself as a chief hustler, dismissed the endorsement of Raila by President Kenyatta, engaging in rigorous campaigns that cast him as the underdog under siege from government machinery. On the 9th of August, Kenya went to the polls, and after 6 days, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission announced Ruto as the eventual winner after garnering 50.49% of the votes cast. Raila and his running mate Martha Karua moved to the Supreme Court to challenge the outcome, supported by other 7 petitioners. On the 5th of September, the Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision, upheld William Ruto's win, clearing the last hurdle in his bid to become Kenya's 5th president. John Jacob Curia, Channel 1.
All right, let's now take a moment and just go through Ruto's second in command, Rigathi Gashagwa's profile. Just to remind ourselves, he was born in 1965, actually 1 year older than his boss. He was born in Hiriga village, that's in Mathira, in Nyeri County, between 1971 and 1977. He went to school at Kiburuini Primary School. 1978 to 1981, he was in Kianyaga High School for his O-levels, and later on his A-levels. In 1982 to 1983, he did his A-levels, as I indicated, in Kenyaga High School. And in 1985 to 1988, he was a student at the University of Nairobi, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Literature. At the university, he headed the Nyeri District University Students Association as its top officials. In 1989 to 1990, he was an assistant secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs and National Heritage. In 1990, he was recruited as a district officer cadet and underwent paramilitary training at the Administration Police Institute. In 2000, he did a course in advanced public administration at the Kenya School of Government. Let's see, 1991, 1992, he was posted to the office of the president as a district officer cadet. He served in the provincial administration as a district officer for 14 years, quite some time there. He was based in Kirinyaga, went to Kiambaa, worked in Limuru, in Ngarua, crossed over to Western Kenya, worked in Kakamega, and also got an opportunity to go and work in those far-flung areas like Garissa. In 2001, all the way to 2006, he worked as a personal assistant to the then minister in charge of local government, the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta. 2017, we all know he was elected a member of parliament for Mathira constituency, and he ran on a Jubilee ticket. And now, in 2022, he has been declared the deputy president-elect by the Supreme Court. Remember, Raila Odinga has declined the invitation, and he has given reasons that he will not be attending the inauguration tomorrow. He indicates he has issues that need his attention, and that in a week or two, when he comes back, then he will be giving a way forward to his support base. Betty Kiptum.
Yes, Tom, quite some interesting profile there for Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gashagwa. Let's just delve a little bit deeper into that profile. Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gashagwa made history by being the first-term Member of Parliament to rise to presidency. Rigathi Gashagwa, formerly Mathira constituency Member of Parliament, previously served as a district officer during President Daniel Arap Moi's era. Politically, he lived in the shadow of his more popular brother, the late Nderitu Gashagwa, the first governor of Nyeri County. Gishuki Wachira looks at the rise from a former administrator to second in command in the Republic of Kenya.
At 57 years old, Rigathi Gashagwa can be described as a bold leader who never shies away from speaking his heart.
Hao makarao hawa hawana maneno mingi. Shida yao ilikuwa ni njaa. Tangu Mwai Kibaki aende, hawajapata nyongeza ya mshahara. Tutawapanga watakuwa wamebadilika, wamekuwa watu wazuri. Wakipatana na wewe usiku, wakikuweka Land Cruiser, hawatakupeleka Kilimani ama Lang'ata, watakupeleka nyumbani kwako mpaka nyumbani ukapumzike.
Rigathi's guts to take on his rivals, despite their mighty status, was perhaps among the factors that made outgoing Deputy President, now President-elect William Ruto, settle for him as his running mate in the 2022 presidential race.
Since we elected President Uhuru Kenyatta, KRA has stopped being a professional organization. It has become an organization of managing politics in this country.
Born in Sagana, Mathira constituency, Rigathi Gashagwa is the last-born son in a large family. He often refers himself as a son of Mau Mau.
Na mimi nikamwambia naibu wa rais, hiyo kazi umeniita tufanye, mimi niko tayari. Kwa sababu mimi ni mtoto ya Mau Mau. Nilizaliwa pale Herega, sikuwa na chochote. Nilikuwa naishi kwa nyumba ya nyasi. Nilikuwa nimehangaika. Nilikuwa nimekosa chakula na school fees siku mingi. Mungu akaniinua na sisi tupata nafasi tuinue wengine ndio pia hao wasimame.
During his 5-year stay in the 12th Parliament, the first-term legislator never shied away from criticizing the Jubilee government for what he viewed as bad policies that hampered economy and growth of small-scale businesses in the country. During his youthful years, Rigathi served as an administrator in the late President Daniel Arap Moi's government and later as a personal assistant to the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta when the latter was seeking presidency in 2003.
Some of us have campaigned for him for 20 years. Myself, I voted for him 4 times. I have given my youthful life to him. My youthful life, I donated to Uhuru Kenyatta. I spend my time and resources. If you ask the people of Madeira here, I spend millions of shillings putting billboards, branding cars, asking people to register as voters. During the repeat election, I was all over the country. And above all, he's our friend. And we have no problem.
Despite working closely with President Uhuru Kenyatta, Rigathi only joined active elective politics in 2017 when he won the Mathira parliamentary seat. Previously, he acted as an unofficial overseer of Nyeri County government when his older brother, the late Governor Nderitu Gashagwa, was in London for medical treatment. Gishuki Wachira, Prime Edition.
Of course, it's a full in-tray for President William Ruto and his second in command. A lot of expectations, very, very high. Remember, the campaign was built around the hustler narrative. And so the country will be looking forward to how the two will move the country forward. But the outgoing President Kenyatta, for him, as we have put it there, it's an end of an era. So let's just look at his profile. When he was born, 1961, quite a number of years back, he attended the prestigious St. Mary's School right here in the capital city of Nairobi, graduated, went all the way to the United States of America, where he studied a degree in political science and economics at the Amherst College. He came back to Kenya in 1997 through his heart in the political contest, ran for the Gatundu Kanu branch chairmanship. He won, and in 1999, if you can remember, President Daniel Arap Moi appointed him the chair of the Kenya Tourism Board. And 2 years later, in 2001, he was nominated to Parliament and appointed as a minister in charge of the local government docket. 1 year later, in 2002, he was elected one of the four. You remember, KANU reorganized its structure, so we had four vice chairmen, and he was elected to be one of those four. In the same year, he vied for the presidency, if you can remember, and he lost to Mwai Kibaki of NAC. I remember him conceding. In 2005, he won the KANU national chairmanship after defeating Nicholas Kipyetor Biwott. Same year, he campaigned against the referendum. I keep reminding you remember the banana and the orange. That referendum was about amending the constitution. And so he was on the same side with Right Honorable Raila Odinga. 2 years later, 2007, declared that KANU would not field a presidential candidate, but instead backed President Kibaki's second bid. All right. 1 year later, he was appointed Deputy Prime Minister, and he took responsibility at the Ministry of Trade. We recall that because of the 2007 and 2008 post-election violence, there was a case in the Netherlands at The Hague, and he was one of the people who had to go there and defend himself over the post-election violence. The charges were very heavy, serious charges, crimes against humanity. He shuffled to head the Ministry of Finance while maintaining his deputy premiership. That should have come earlier. In 2013, Mount Kenya region fronted him to succeed retiring President Mwai Emilio Kibaki. In 2013, you remember, he won the presidency with his running mate, William Ruto. That was their first term, and the ticket that took them to power was the Jubilee ticket against, of course, their closest rival, Raila Odinga. 2015, they went through the case, and you remember that case that was at The Hague collapsed. Those charges were dropped, okay, at the ICC. In 2017, again, the presidential election came. He won against Raila Odinga of the National Super Alliance, NASA. 1 year later, you remember, in 2018, the doctrine of the handshake. He shook hands with the opposition leader Raila Odinga, his preferred successor, in the 2022 election. His preferred candidate, Raila Odinga, lost the presidential election to his deputy, William Samoei Ruto. September 13th, just a reminder, 2022, and that's tomorrow, marks the end of Kenyatta's tenure as president. And remember that we will be covering those proceedings as they take place tomorrow. So let me, Betty, anything you want to throw in there?
Yes, quite an interesting profile there of the outgoing president. And let's just give our viewers an overview of what he has achieved during these 10 years, many fasts that he has. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta would be remembered for steering many fasts in matters development during his presidency. Among the hallmarks of President Kenyatta's leadership is construction of the standard gauge railway between Mombasa and Naivasha, automation of government services, and setting up of Huduma centers that took services closer to the people. Take a look.
In the run-up to the 2013 election, the Jubilee Party ran on a campaign of transforming the country's infrastructure with the standard gauge railway as one of its key deliverables. During the first term of the Jubilee administration, the construction of phase 1 of the standard gauge railway line between Mombasa and Nairobi was completed, with the Madaraka Express passenger service train commissioned, operating 3 times to either directions daily as well as cargo trains. The second phase of the standard gauge railway saw extension of the line by 120 kilometers between Nairobi and Naivasha, which President Uhuru Kenyatta said during its launch that it was meant to open up more areas to development.
My administration has upgraded Kenya's infrastructure in terms of roads, ports, bridges, fiber optics, power generation and transmission, and as a result, Kenya now stands out as an investment destination of choice and a continental as well as a global hub.
Another key project that defined President Kenyatta's regime was digitization of government services. The digitization program that was meant to enhance efficiency in delivery of government services allowed Kenyans to apply for key official documents such as passports, birth and death certificates, as well as driving licenses, among other services online. The digitization of services culminated to the rollout of Huduma Centers. Huduma Center offer a one-stop shop service delivery program where several government agencies under one roof offer their respective services to the public in a bid to fasten and enhance efficiency in service delivery. Currently, there are 40 Huduma Centers spread across the country, with the government targeting to have at least a Huduma Center in each of the 47 counties.
With the mandate you gave us, we also transformed the way government services reach the Mwananchi. We did this through the introduction of Huduma Centers and the e-Citizen online platform, which together have made access to public services a fast and pleasant experience and not the toll that every citizen had to endure in the past to obtain basic services.
The expressway in Nairobi is another first not only in Kenya but in the East Africa region. The 21.1 kilometer elevated toll highway between Mlolongo and Westlands was launched in July this year.
Indeed, this is the first PPP road project in Kenya. The Nairobi Expressway marks the government's pivot towards leveraging private capital to bridge our infrastructural deficit.
The Lamu Port, under the Lamu Port South Sudan-Ethiopia Transport Corridor LAPSET flagship project, was commissioned in May last year. President Kenyatta commissioned the first of the 3 berths whose construction the government is funding.
Officially operationalizing berth number 1, and this means that we can start receiving ships and cargo at this port, and by July berth number 2 will be ready. And by October of this year, the last berth, which is berth number 3, shall also be operational.
The target is to have 32 berths, most of which will be constructed by the private sector under the public-private partnership arrangement. So far, the Kenya Ports Authority is operationalizing the Lamu Port, which has a depth of 17.5 meters, as compared to the port of Mombasa, 15 meters, making it an ideal destination for large container ships. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been in the forefront of rallying world leaders to pay attention to how to deal with climate change. At the COP21 held in Paris, France, the president rallied the world to relook their production processes and work towards curbing carbon emissions. In 2016, you remember, Kenya played host to the inaugural Giants Club Summit held in Laikipia County for the protection of the elephant population right across the world. Here is that report.
The world is precariously moving towards a catastrophe that only the strong will be able to survive. The rising global temperatures and the attendant impacts are soon getting out of hand. President Uhuru Kenyatta has been in the forefront of rallying the world towards addressing the challenges arising from global warming. While attending the virtual Climate Ambition Summit in 2020, President Kenyatta called on the developed world to help developing nations put in place mitigation measures towards reducing global greenhouse gas emissions, as well as grow the kitty that will aid in putting in place adaptation to climate change programs, as well as implement the NDCs.
Kenya, just like other vulnerable countries, is experiencing frequent and intense bouts of drought and torrential rains, leading to floods with far-reaching consequences on communities, ecosystems, and infrastructure. It is estimated that the loss associated with these natural calamities could be as high as 3% of GDP annually.
President Kenyatta reminded the world leaders that there was need to address the lack of equity among nations through financing the Green Climate Fund to enable developing countries access funds to put in place programs that limit global emissions.
Our first NDC had set a 30% emission reduction by 2030. Our updated NDC commits to abate greenhouse gas emissions by 32% by 2030, which is in line with our Sustainable Development Agenda and our national circumstances. The time frame set for the implementation of the NDC is up to 2030, with milestones targeted in 2025. To implement the required mitigation and adaptation actions in the updated NDC, we will require approximately $62 million between 2020 and 2030. I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
When he came into office in 2013, the poaching menace had reached worrying levels. The country was losing at most 3 elephants a week. Due to worry and fear that indeed the jumbo population was going fast into extinction, President Kenyatta hosted the leaders of countries with the largest population of elephants, that is Kenya, Gabon, Uganda, and Botswana.
This historic meeting heralds a new beginning, not just for Kenya, but across a number of elephant range states. Between us, the initial Giants Club member countries of Uganda, Gabon, Kenya, and Botswana, we hold more than half of Africa's remaining elephants. Therefore, I believe that the decisions we take here will determine the future of our elephants on this continent.
As President Kenyatta exits the stage, Kenya's elephant population has grown and remains sustainable. The comprehensive forest cover assessment conducted in 2013 shows the national forest cover has risen from 5.99% to slightly over 8%. This is thanks to rehabilitation of forests such as Mau Forest. The water tower is the main storage of large rivers, including River Mara, which is the mainstay of the Masai Mara Game Reserve and the main source for water for Lake Natron in Tanzania. The Mau Forest is also the source of water for River Sondu Miriu, that has a hydropower plant that often sustains electricity supply when River Tana catchment area is hit by drought. Opicho Chemtai for Prime Edition.
It's time to reset, restart, reskill, and talk about health matters. Wake up, eat healthy, and keep fit. And together with our health experts, we'll be helping you understand health conditions and terminologies.
PCOS, as you said, is a very long name. First of all, if you can break it down, it's poly, and then cystic, and then syndrome.
Join me, Mariambo, every Sunday at 6 p.m. on Your Health, only on KBC Channel 1.
I, Jomo Kenyatta. Mimi, Daniel Doroidich Arab Moi. Mwai Kibaki. Naapa kwamba
I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Walimu na wanafunzi mpo. KBC Channel 1 inakutoa darasani na kukuleta jukwani ili upate kuaminika.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Tayari kuwakariria shairi kwa kichwa
kuelimika.
Udhui gani ya lugha yanayojitokeza katika kauli hii ukirejelea mataifa mengi barani Afrika?
Na kisha uburudike.
Moja ni fahari yetu, baba, kina mama na watoto.
Sauti za njiwa tamu sana.
Sanaa ya Kiswahili, elimu na maarifa bila mipaka, kila Jumapili saa 7:30 papa hapa KBC Channel 1.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Welcome back. You are watching Prime Edition. Now, the presidency will always, without doubt, be the most demanding position any man or woman will hold in Kenya. However, President Uhuru Kenyatta often made the position seem an almost effortless undertaking for how gracefully he conducted himself. As he exits office, majority of Kenyans will remember him for some rather hilarious moments and his ability to demystify that title and office of the president.
There is an English adage that says, heavy is the head that bears the crown. Indeed, the weight of the country is always on its president's shoulders, who often has a huge intrigue that looks upon him to fulfill. But as the pressure piles up, citizens have always focused on how the president will respond to various situations. Outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta's ability to relate with Kenyan citizens has always amazed the masses. While many will term presidential briefings a mere formality, President Uhuru Kenyatta found ways of captivating the listeners during his speeches.
Mariakani Bamba Road means that the farmer's song, Safari, oh yeah. Safari ya bamba ni machero.
And while he has shown his ability to kind of sing, the president seems skillful enough to conduct a musical band. One could be forgiven to think that he has plans to undertake music after exiting office. Music always goes with a couple of dance moves here and there, and while His Excellency is quite the musician, his dance moves are not so bad either. And he has been able to somewhat give Kenyan entertainers a run for their money. On this particular day, the outgoing president was able to indulge a young upcoming performer singing Head, Shoulders, Knees and Toes track. Well, let's see how well the president was able to keep up. Underneath all of solemnity he exhibited as the chief executive officer of the country, President Uhuru Kenyatta has also shown that he is a family man and a loving husband. During the launch of Beyond Zero campaign half marathon, the president embraced his wife Margaret Kenyatta at the finish line, which left many with hearts full of admiration.
I met her for the first time swimming with my father, and my father told me, this one looks good.
And lo and behold, some 20 years later, it came to pass.
As he exits office tomorrow, Uhuru, the man, goes down as a remarkable leader, a funny man who cracked the ribs of many. Metaphorically, of course, it's only befitting to look back at those light moments. The moments that would make the now generation term him as woke. Moments filled with witty remarks, cunning laughter, and humorous stories.
In the course of my state visit to the Republic of Jamaica, kwa hivyo mimi sina mengine mengi jameni, unless mtaninulia lunch sijui.
Reporting for Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
Now, during campaigns, President-elect William Samoei Ruto said that he would adopt an African-focused foreign policy, indicating a shift from the previous focus on the East, while also maintaining relations with the influential Western states. Ruto also pledged to reduce agricultural imports by 30% and raise farm productivity through new capital and also financial management instruments. Here's our reporter Regina Manyara with the details.
His predecessors, the late President Mwai Kibaki and President Uhuru Kenyatta, leaned east, mainly focusing on China, that stood out as Kenya's largest importer and a major investor in the country's large-scale infrastructure projects, as well as the country's major creditor. However, it will be interesting to see how William Ruto's administration navigates its relationship with China, the West, and closer home, other African countries.
Put the brakes on borrowing. Number two, we will put brakes on unbudgeted projects. In fact, that is the biggest source of our problem.
On the campaign trail, Ruto took an antagonistic stance towards Beijing, blaming China for Kenya's debt and promising to end government borrowing from the Asian country.
I am looking forward to the day, soon enough, when we can borrow from the savings of the people of Kenya to run our development instead of borrowing from other countries.
Ruto also indicated that he would promote an Africa-focused foreign policy, emphasizing on the need to prioritize regional organizations when it comes to expanding the market for Kenya's products and services to include the African Continental Free Trade Area, the East African Community, the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa Commerce. He said the Africa-focused policy would allow Kenya to expand its influence as a technology powerhouse to leverage on potential of Kenyans living and working abroad. Ruto during the campaign's pledge to create a ministry for diaspora affairs.
Yes, we will have a diaspora ministry. You know, and I am very clear in my mind that we will have a diaspora ministry. Are we together? And it's not a favor. It's not a favor. It is because we need it, and it will help us do many things.
This is expected to boost diaspora remittances that are already the leading source of foreign exchange for Kenya.
A wholesome relationship where you people can meaningfully participate in the governance of our country.
To enhance food security, Ruto pledged that his administration would earmark at least 250 billion shillings in 5 years, effective 2023, to boost agriculture and food security.
Tutaweka pesa ya kutosha kwa kilimo, tupunguze gharama ya mbolea, tupunguze gharama ya mbegu, tuhakikisha kwamba mkulima anapata bei ya sawasawa kwa mazao yake, kama ni mahindi, kama ni chai, kama ni kahawa, kama ni miwa, apate bei ya sawasawa, ili tutumie kilimo kuweka pesa kwa mfuko ya mkulima na tuzalishe chakula ya kutosha.
This spending would target to improve food production and reduce basic food imports by 30%.
Chakula ifike sokoni ikiwa bei nafuu ndio kila mtu aweze kulisha familia yake.
Currently, Kenya's key food source markets are Tanzania, Uganda, South Africa, European countries, India and the United States. The President-elect promised that his administration would deploy modern agricultural risk management instruments such as crop and livestock insurance schemes, commodity market instruments including forward contracts and price stabilization schemes to make farming profitable and its income more predictable. Over 2 million poor farmers are to benefit from input finance and intensive agricultural extension support, with a target to generate a minimum of 50,000 in revenue per acre. To revamp the SMEs sector, Ruto promised to inject 50 billion shillings every year to provide access to affordable credit through SACCOs, venture capital, equity funds and long-term debt for startups and growth-oriented SMEs.
Hata kama biashara yako ni kidogo, ni jukumu letu kama serikali tukusaidie mpaka biashara yako ndogo iwe biashara kubwa kesho. Ama ni aje? Ndio tumesema nyinyi wafanyabiashara wa chini, wafanyabiashara mama mboga, boda boda, mtu ya mtumba na wale wengine, shida yenu kubwa ni mahali ya kufanya biashara. Shida ya pili ni sheria ya kulinda biashara yenu. Shida ya tatu ni pesa ya kuinua biashara yenu. Tunakubaliana? Ndio tumesema serikali hii kwa mapenzi ya Mungu tutaweka bilioni 50 kusaidia biashara ya mwananchi mdogo.
Regina Manyara reporting for KBC Channel 1.
Quite the promises made there. Now, President-elect William Ruto takes over an economy battered by high inflation, unsustainable debt portfolio, high unemployment rate, and a worsening business environment. Though Ruto campaigned on a platform of empowering low-income earners, it will be a tough balancing act between reviving the ailing economy, managing fuel subsidies, and tapering the cost of living. Carol Njenga looks at the economic in-tray that awaits the incoming president.
As Kenya ushers in a new administration with President William Ruto at the helm, expectations are high among Kenyans that top on his priority list is lowering the cost of basic commodities and managing the high wage bill.
Tuna vijana ambayo wamemaliza form 4, wengine hata wanataka kwenda university na tuna uwezo, chakula imepanda, aweze kutusaidia hata vijana wetu wakipata hata kama ni kazi ya kufagia hapa town. Tutafurahia kwa sababu sisi ni watu wa bottom up, wale wa chini. Alisema ya kwamba atainua wa chini.
Mambo ya mafuta ya kupigia chakula imepanda sana, sabuni imepanda sana, hata kuoga tutaweza kuoga.
Maana watu wa chini wengi kidogo maisha imewakalia. So ni vyema wakati wanaingia waangalia hawa watu wa chini kabisa.
All eyes will be on the president-elect as he takes the reins of power on Tuesday, with hopes that he delivers on his agenda centered on revamping the economy, uplifting the marginalized communities, lowering the cost of living, expanding the tax base, and creating jobs for the youth within the first 100 days.
Election is about one thing. It is about the economy. Everything else is a sideshow, and everything else is a distraction.
Ruto's manifesto is anchored on 6 core pillars of agriculture, micro, small and medium enterprise economy, housing and settlement, healthcare, digital superhighway and creative economy, environment and climate change.
We have a crisis of cost of living. Our agricultural productivity has not matched our population growth. Agenda yetu tunaweka pesa ya kutosha kwa kilimo. Tumesema mbolea tutapunguza.
We need to prioritize spending where the majority of the labor force is, in agriculture. About 54% of the labor force is in agriculture. 82% of the labor force is in the informal sector. So they have very specific proposals to support agriculture, small scale holder smallholder agriculture and to support informal trade through funds, access to credit, dealing with the issue of their asset base, taking various measures to ensure that they have space to trade, they have, inclusive land use.
President William Ruto faces economic challenges, and it will be interesting to see the solutions he will provide to the current economic predicament in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and the rising cost of living that has sent prices of essential commodities such as maize, flour, fuel and cooking oil to the roof, even as inflation breached the medium-term target to reach 8.5% in August, a 62 months high.
Tumesema kama Kenya Kwanza, lazima tupunguze gharama ya maisha, lazima tupunguze gharama ya chakula.
This in addition to the 500 billion shillings owed to suppliers and contractors by ministries and state agencies will indeed be a daunting task for the new administration.
We have also recommended that going into the future and to avoid the subject of huge pending bills in government, we have issued instructions that going forward, pending bills will be paid on a fast in, fast out basis, so that the older pending bills are sorted out before any new pending bills are done.
The country is also weighed down by a huge debt, high unemployment rate, and an unstable currency. Ruto, in his manifesto, promised to deal with the ballooning debt, saying he will put brakes on borrowing to avoid a debt crisis in Kenya akin to the one facing Ghana.
We will put brakes on unbudgeted projects. In fact, that is the biggest source of our problem. Projects that are not within the budget, so that we cannot keep our fiscal deficit at what we have committed, 5%. Or 5.9%.
Amount of debt we procured, the places that debt was put in terms of the spending priorities have not been giving us returns, forcing the government to borrow more and more, to an extent that we are borrowing more than our ability to pay. So that out of every 100 shillings that government collects in tax revenue, about 70%, 70 shillings goes to paying, to debt repayment. This is not a sustainable position.
As of December 2021, the country's public debt stood at 8.2 trillion shillings, which is about 70% of GDP, with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank warning that Kenya is on the brink of debt distress if left unattended. The 12th Parliament raised the country's debt ceiling thrice during President Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure to allow the state to finance the budget deficits. With the public debt capped at 10 trillion shillings, very little headroom is left for the new government to borrow, as Wanjiru explains.
They must borrow in the short term, but they must quickly try and get outside of this debt cycle. Yes, I think there is some small room to borrow, but the issue is borrow for what? And how do you get out of the trap? Because
in the last 10 years of Uhuru's reign, the government deepened borrowing to finance key infrastructure projects like the Standard Gauge Railway, expansion of Mombasa Port, among other projects. Experts say for Kenya to evade a debt crisis, the country must ramp up exports, slice public wage bills, and manage import bills, relook at the country's fiscal and monetary policies, and rework the debt repayment schedule.
They need to, one of the immediate priorities is going to be, one, make sure you have the right people in office, because our debt crisis is due to corruption, is due to state capture, is due to political interests in the budget process distorting our public finance system. So the first thing is accountability.
Ruto, in his manifesto, promised to tackle the high unemployment rate, citing that 10 million Kenyans are either unemployed or underemployed.
Matters unemployment are not matters that can be taken lightly anymore. These are matters that are an emergency. In fact, unemployment is a national crisis. And that is why, as Kenya Kwanza, we are saying we have a Marshall Plan on dealing with a big crisis of unemployment.
All eyes are on the president-elect to see what kind of economic policies his administration will employ to put Kenya back on the path of robust economic growth. Caroline Jenga for Prime Edition. Songea tukupashe na zile ambavyo vitakupa tabasamu tosha.
Hana mapenzi wala mahaba, mtoto mbaya sana huyu.
What did you just say? Sio tamthilia tu.
And why you are saying that
Ni tamthilia tosha.
Alinishika hivi.
What? Sio burudani tu, ni burudani tosha.
It is the day that the Lord has made.
Na sinema bomba.
Kabisa kama uelewi kitu inafaa uelewe.
Na mada za kusisimua. KBC Channel 1, shirika la utangazaji Kenya.
I, Jomo Kenyatta.
Mimi, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi.
Mwai Kibaki. Na hapa kwamba
I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. As per his manifesto launched on the 30th of June 2022, President-elect Dr. William Ruto outlined his plan for women once he ascends to office. The President-elect, among other things, promised to ensure the realization of the two-third gender rule in both elective as well as appointive positions in the first 12 months of his presidency. The big question is this, by the way: how will he attain the 50% appointments in cabinet he promised to women?
As the country prepares for transition from the 4th to the 5th administration on Tuesday, women are full of expectation that the new government, once in place, will fulfill its promise. During the launch of his manifesto on the 30th of June 2022, President-elect Dr. William Ruto noted that inclusion of women in key sectors of the economy was minimal and that most women remained in low-income jobs or enterprises, and in his campaigns always mirrored the mama mbogas.
Tutaweka bilioni 50 katika hazina ya micro and small enterprise ili tuwapatie hawa wakulima wa chini, mama mboga, bodaboda na wale wengine wadogo, pesa ya serikali bila ya kuitisha interest.
Who he even accredited for his win.
You know, the legendary mama mboga and bodaboda guys, they are the heroes of our campaign. They have opened doors and gates for their own children in every village, in every neighborhood, knowing very well that their children as well can become leaders.
In his manifesto dubbed The Plan, Ruto outlined his commitment under what he termed as the Women Agenda. Under the Hustler Fund, the President-elect committed to provide financial muscle for women who have always been left in the bottom pillar of the economy.
Women will become equal partners, will have equal say, will occupy equal positions in the highest decision-making organ of the Republic of Kenya.
Further, Ruto says that his government will ensure realization of 2/3 gender rule in 12 months following election, including 50% cabinet positions for women.
I, William Samoei Ruto, on behalf of Kenya Kwanza Alliance, do hereby commit to actualize the 2/3 gender principle. We shall allocate 50% of all cabinet positions to the women of Kenya.
The president-elect hailing the achievements of women in the just concluded general election, which saw 7 women elected governors. To demonstrate his commitment to having women in leadership positions, his party UDA sponsored Uasin Gishu woman member of parliament Gladys Boss Sholei.
I, Gladys Chepkoskei Boss, having been elected a member of the National Assembly,
to the position of Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, which she won.
So help me God.
The president-elect also vowed to establish a social welfare fund for Kenyan women working abroad to provide a distressed safety net. Additionally, the manifesto outlines that administrative measures will be undertaken to ensure 100% enforcement of the spousal consent legal provisions in land transactions to cushion women and children from dispossession of family land.
Full enforcement of the spousal consent provisions of the law in all land transactions and property rights to cushion women, children, and families from dispossession of family land.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Women await. Now, as William Ruto takes over as the 5th president of Kenya, the sports sector expects the new administration to facilitate growth and development. Daniel Wahome looks at what is in the sports in-tray for the incoming Kenya Kwanza government.
Following the enactment of the Sports Act of 2013, the sector has seen changes in operations and funding. The Act is explicit on how sports federations are legally structured. If they fail to meet the criteria, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of sports is mandated to take action to ensure compliance. For the incoming administration, they will inherit the Football Kenya Federation Transition Committee that has been in place since November last year, when Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed disbanded the body's executive. Prior to the intervention in football, the Sports Ministry had put in place a normalization committee to bring an end to wrangles at Cricket Kenya. Currently, the Swimming Federation is under stabilization committee constituted by the world governing body FINA. Before venturing into any aspect of sport, the new administration will have to enforce the national governance structure.
What I'm to discover in Kenya is that there are so many people thriving in the chaos that is the sporting industry, and any semblance of proper corporate governance or proper structures is fought. So it's a step in the right direction, but still a lot more work needs to go to make it a full commercial enterprise.
Besides governance, funding of national teams and events hosted is guaranteed through the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund, SESDEF. Sports is allocated up to 35% of the fund. In the current financial year, up to 5.53 billion shillings will go towards sport. The Kenya Kwanza Manifesto speaks of expanding the National Youth Talent Academy to include all sports and simultaneously devolve it to introduce County Sports Talent Academy. These region-based academies will have capacity to systematically identify promising sporting talent and provide necessary support through sponsorship to further their skills and talent.
Development is a big issue. And development is coaching. You have the Kenya Academy of Sports. We need to put money in that. We have, training of trainers and all of that. So I think it's up to government, yes, to say that within the framework that is available or improving the framework that is available, how then do they invest in capacity and capability?
Another pledge is that within 100 days, sustainable sources of sports funding will be identified, including a national lottery, tax incentives for corporate sponsorship, and public-private partnership frameworks for infrastructure development. Some of these proposals exist in law.
Section 15(1)(z), I think, of the Income Tax Act is anyone who puts in money into sponsorship of sports, then of course it's an allowable deduction. It's not clear, one, and two, I don't think there's goodwill from government, because also, I'll be honest, corporates haven't done their research, and because this is a law that has been there for 6 years. So there's a lot of civic education that needs to happen also.
The country has, over the last 5 years, hosted 2 Global Athletics Championships, the World Rally Championship Safari Rally, and the Kenya Open Golf Championship that is part of the European Tour. As part of its manifesto, the incoming administration wants to keep this trend going by establishing a tourism promotion function for sport. To achieve this, they need to invest in infrastructure that passes the tests set out by global federations. As a reference, here's World Athletics President Seb Coe speaking in Oregon in July after Kenya lost the bid to host the 2025 World Athletics Championships.
There were challenges around the stadium, which would have needed a great deal of refurbishment, and there was concern expressed by the council about the time frame and the quantum of resource that would be needed in order to refurbish that.
Sports is a devolved function and county governments have a role to play, a model that is used in Spain.
Every municipality has a FIFA A standard coach or FIFA C standard coach, and they are connected to the municipalities. So whatever FKF is doing with training coaches, there's a way that it works with government. So it's not just FKF training coaches and then these coaches go to their, their clubs and all of that. There's still another angle, another level where they are attached to counties. That I think is what should happen.
Besides the money, intensive programs, the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto has proposed that the country leverage on international athletics brands to develop a domestic sports apparel manufacturing cluster and establishing a Sporting Heroes Benevolent Fund. For Prime Edition, I am Daniel Wahome.
The rehabilitation of the iconic Uhuru Park and Central Park in Nairobi is complete ahead of the reopening of access by members of the public. The rehabilitation workers were done under the tenure of President Uhuru Kenyatta, 52 years after the green spaces were first opened to the public. The revamped green spaces by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, which is part of President Kenyatta's legacy, is set to play a critical role in environment management, economic development, as well as physical well-being of Kenyans. The iconic Nyayo statue and Mau Mau Freedom Fighters Monument at the adjacent Central Park have also been restored.
Now let's get the latest in the world of business. Trade and Industrialization Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina is urging the new administration to uphold negotiated international trade agreements and foster the inclusion of the private sector in trade negotiations. Betty says with the agreement with the United Kingdom, Kenya enjoys a trade balance of more than 15 billion shillings in her favor, and hence the need to protect such gains.
Kenya has sealed trade agreements and strategic negotiations with the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union, and the United Arab Emirates. Giving an update about the progress so far, the Ministry of Trade, Industrialization and Enterprise Development has confirmed the sustenance of the quota-free, duty-free economic partnership agreement with the United Kingdom, translating to 49.4 billion shillings in exports and 33.8 billion shillings in imports.
And we should be calling for the first or the incoming regime, which, even those of you who are midwifing the process will need to know in the context of the calendar that we need to now have the senior trade officials meeting to take stock.
You need to, first of all, assess your position. Keep your track on track. That is to say, you don't waver from where you have been. Do not change position. Because when you change position, you really affect the entire national structure of negotiations.
In addition, the Cabinet Secretary says trade negotiations with the United States is continuing smoothly and anticipates a favorable conclusion on the 10 areas of interest.
Kenya has a very robust engagement with the private sector. It's still the role of government to engage in continually maintaining market opening.
We have concentrated for just too long on our traditional exports, coffee, tea, hiyo yote hiyo. How do we introduce new products into the market?
They say negotiations with the United Arab Emirates on diversifying exports is underway, and the government is working on reducing the trade imbalance with the European Union. The Cabinet Secretary says private sector players should engage the incoming administration with proposals on products for the export market.
As you guide the incoming regime, that identify these voices, do not over-concentrate on only those who are around the table, discover the rest and give them voice.
The rate of introduction of new products into the market is very low. You need to think about it. If Kenya is going to grow, if Kenya is going to experience the rapid economic growth that we desire.
Hibak Said for Prime Edition.
And 1 million women across 34 counties are to benefit from a partnership between B-Box and Unilever aimed at increasing adoption of clean energy in rural areas. Under the partnership, beneficiaries will be trained on the best energy practices. Phase 1 of the project is to be piloted in Homa Bay and Busia counties, then be expanded to the other 32 counties.
About 30% of the rural population in Kenya do not have access to electricity currently, demonstrating the urgent need for energy solutions in the country.
And I think there's a responsibility on corporates like ourselves to also use that scale for good.
To remedy this, B-Box, a platform providing access to essential products and services, and Sunlight, a detergent brand under Unilever, have partnered to accelerate the provision of clean energy access for households across Kenya.
And we're working hard together to make sure that we reach the last household to benefit from these more convenient, more healthy, cheaper solutions that we offer.
The partnership will drive combined marketing campaigns and mobilize agents with resources and training to promote clean energy solutions, as well as serve as new source of income for Unilever's retailer network, comprising of more than 50% female entrepreneurs who have so far signed up to partner under the project.
I'm extremely proud of Sunlight, especially for joining hands with B-Box to bring clean energy to many rural homes in Kenya, to empower thousands of women involved, and in the process, help to uplift the homes and communities at large, the communities that we operate in.
Beneficiaries will also be trained on best energy practice, including energy-saving solutions. Phase 1 of the 3-year program will be rolled out in Homa Bay and Busia County.
And Kenyan exporters are staring at losses due to cargo clearance challenges at the Malaba one-stop border post that has resulted to a 20-kilometer traffic snarl-up of outbound trucks. According to truck drivers, Kenya Revenue Authority scanners broke down, resulting to delays in cargo clearance of goods destined for neighboring countries.
Traffic is building up at Malaba one-stop border post along the Kenya-Uganda border due to slow clearance process. The snarl-up has stretched 20 kilometers in Kenya.
Kama saa hizi jamu tumeingia jana jioni. Na tujajua ile shida, maanake naona magari navuka lakini mengine hayapangi foreni. Lakini sisi wenye kupanga foreni hapa saa hizi hapa kuvuka, tutavuka kule ngambo ile. Muda wa saa 2 jioni mahali tuko hapo saa hizi. Sasa shida ya dereva sijui mbona shida iko wapi. Manake dereva ndiye ambaye anachangia uchumi pakubwa katika taifa hili. Sababu kila kitu, hata sahani yoyote ya chakula inaenda kwa meza. Hata kwa hawa viongozi ni dereva.
According to truck drivers, cargo clearance scanners at Malaba one-stop border post malfunctioned, resulting to manual clearance that has slowed the process.
Kule Malaba ni Malaba maana yana clearance ndio shida, inaenda pole pole. Alafu wakati mwingine hiyo sensa ya kule Uganda inaweza kama hali kakataa. Hiyo ndio shida tuko nayo hapo Kenya.
The truck drivers want the scanners at the one-stop border point replaced, noting that last month it failed, resulting in traffic stretching 45 kilometers.
Kwa hii serikali mpya inaweza kuwa shida kama hii tatuliwa. Sisi tuwe tulikuja hapa tunakuja na kufuka. Hiyo ndio inaweza kuwa raha yetu.
Well, we now want to take a quick break. When we come back, Karen Kibet is on standby on the other side of studio. There she is. She shall be bringing you the latest in the world of sports. Do stay with Prime Edition.
Daniel Doroitich Arab Moi, Mwai Kibaki, na hapa kwamba
I, Uhuru Kenyatta,
there's a new game in town. It's a game like no other. It's captivating. It's fun, entertaining and refreshing.
Which year was the film released?
Correct answer.
Don't miss out on the Second Chance television game show, premiering on Channel 1.
Welcome back. Now let's take a break from matters, the inauguration, and shift focus to matter sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Thank you for keeping it KBC Prime Edition. Now the national 3-on-3 under-23 girls basketball team leaves for Romania tomorrow morning for the FIBA under-23 World Championship, where they expect to replicate or even better the senior team's performance in the Commonwealth Games. The championship is scheduled to take place from 14th to the 16th of this month in Romania. The team of 4, captained by Alexandra Adala, has been training at Strathmore and the Nyayo National Stadium, where they qualified for the world event after they beat Uganda 15-12 in the Africa Under-23 Southern Zone edition. Adala will be joined by Madina Ogot, who was the most valuable player, Jacqueline Kogo, who contributed immensely towards their qualification, and Yvonne Okello, who replaced Barbara Achieng, who is involved in the national school games. The team is drawn in Pool B against Japan and Lithuania, with their first match against the Asians this Wednesday. Now, Coach Tony Ochieng is optimistic of a good performance, adding that their first stop should be nothing short of a win. The team manager Hilmi Ali said they had a lot of faith in the team, which they are nurturing for the future as 3-on-3 basketball continues to make inroads into the country.
And you can see the team is young. Majority of them are 22. All of them are 22 years. It's only one girl who is 18. So this is a future team which you are building for the future events which are coming.
We expect that they are going to be better. We expect that they are better opponents than we had here, with more skill. They have trained well. Everybody definitely has trained well for this. So we are going there knowing that it's not going to be easy, but we have trained well, so we expect that we are going to put a show.
Mimi naona itazidi kunisaidia. I hope timu zangu pia watafaidika sana, kwa sababu you know that exposure ni mtu ameenda akakompiti nje na mtu amebaki hapa, kuna difference kubwa.
We do wish the under-23 basketball team all the best. Moving on, the national women's volleyball team Malkia Strikers head coach Luis Omar de Mora has named his final squad of 14 players ahead of the World Championship set for 23rd September to 15th October in Netherlands and Poland. Opposite attacker Sharon Chepchumba, Violet Makuto, Gladys Ekaru, Edith Wisa, Lauren Chebet, Mercy Moim and Noel Murambi are some of the regulars retained in the squad. Setters Immaculate, Nekesa and Veronica Kilabat also made the cut and will make their debut at the Global Showpiece. Malkia Strikers have been camping in Brazil for over 2 months and will head to Serbia on Wednesday for a 10-day training camp. Kenya are placed in Group A at the World Championships alongside arch rivals Cameroon, hosts the Netherlands, European champions Italy, Belgium and Puerto Rico. African youth chess champion Winnie Kaburo is set to take part in the Nairobi Regional Finals chess qualifiers, scheduled to be held at the Riara School. She is optimistic she'll qualify for the African Schools Individual Chess Championship set to be held in December in Monrovia, Liberia. Winnie will be participating alongside her brother Nathaniel Manyeki, who currently holds position 1 in the under-7 category.
Winnie Kaburo, a student at Plainsview Academy in South B, Nairobi, participated in the 2022 FIDE World School Chess Championships held in Panama last month and scored 4.5 points out of 9 rounds. She also participated in the African Youth Chess Championships held in July in Zambia, where she won gold for Team Kenya. She now looks forward to competing in the Nairobi qualifiers, where winners will represent Kenya at the 2022 African Schools Individual Chess Championship, set to run from 10th to 18th December this year in Monrovia, Liberia.
So far, she's been winning all her tournaments with maximum points. And the next one we are aiming for is Eldoret, the National Championships, which we still hope that she's going to win, because that is where she'll be representing the country in Liberia.
I get support from my parents, teachers, and friends outside. Yeah.
Winnie is really good in chess. She has really grown, and we always give her any support that she needs when she's traveling and as a school.
Chess Kenya will hold a series of regional qualifiers this month. Winners will then proceed to the national finals at Mboya School in Eldoret from 18th to 23rd of this month. Winners at the national level will automatically qualify to represent Kenya at the Continental Championships in Liberia.
Dr. Aggrey High School boys basketball team are the new national champions after beating favourites Dagoretti High 70-64 in the finals of the secondary school ball games, which came to a close today at the Nakuru High School. The team now will join the other qualified teams to represent Kenya in the East African Games set to be held in Arusha, Tanzania between the 14th and 24th of this month.
They make it 24-20.
Favourites Dagoretti High dominated the first quarter, but they were rather sluggish in the second quarter, losing 29-25 to Dr. Aggrey School. They also lost the subsequent sets 48-41 and 70-64 to gift Dr. Aggrey the victory. Meanwhile, Hospital Hills handball team emerged victorious after a 30-25 victory over Kamito in the final.
Game imekuwa poa. Tumecheza vizuri, but ni zile mistake kidogo tu zimekuwa, so ndio tukalose hiyo game, but game imekuwa poa, so tuko sure tukienda huko tuta-improve kwa game yetu.
In girls volleyball final, Kwandanse High School defended their title for the 4th time in a row after defeating Kesogon 3-1 in the finals. Kesogon won the first set 25-20, but Kwandanse won the second, third and fourth sets respectively after scoring 25-17, 25-13 and 25-19. The winning teams will represent Kenya in the East African Sports Games, which will be held in Arusha, Tanzania between the 14th and 24th of this month. The games will return after a 2-year absence because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
God being God has been on our side, and we're praying to God. At the same time, I'm an experienced coach. I'm a FIVB level 2 coach, and therefore I knew what to do. I had my notes, and I knew what to apply. I had my option A, B, C, and D in the game. I only used option B. C and D is yet to be used.
Yes, there has been quite a break during which we were away from active involvement in the field. However, it's all about attitude. Our attitude didn't change. We kept it positive because a sportsman is about attitude. But I must also say that we didn't keep so much away from the field. We kept doing what a sportsman must do.
The Kenya National High School Games come to an end today with the qualified team departing for Arusha tomorrow. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Thank you, Dan, for that report. Moving on, the National Rugby Sevens team's Shujaa finished 12th overall at the just concluded Rugby World Cup Sevens after losing 26-19 to USA in the 11th place playoff at the Cape Town Stadium in South Africa. Meanwhile, Commonwealth Games champion Ferdinand Omanyala finished third at the Memorial Borisa Hazenkovic meeting in Zagreb, Croatia last night.
Here they come right now for the last time at the Rugby World Cup Sevens in beautiful Cape Town, South Africa.
Shujaa came into the match forecast to redeem themselves after losing to England 36-0 in the Challenge semi-finals. Vincent Onyala, Captain Nelson Oyo and Jeff Oluoch touched down for Kenya, while Lucas Lacamp, Malachi Isdale and Peribeka scored tries for USA to hand them a narrow 26-19 victory. Kenya opened their campaign at the Rugby World Cup Sevens with a 19-0 win over Tonga before losing to Argentina in the round of 16. The Darwin McGrath Chargers humbled Scotland in the Challenge quarterfinals before losing to England in the Challenge semi-finals. Shujaa finished 16th overall at the 2018 tournament in San Francisco. Meanwhile, Commonwealth Games champion Ferdinand Omanyala finished third at the Memorial Borisa Hazenkovic meeting in Zagreb, Croatia.
Right, but coming through is Bracey. Bracey's going to take this one. What a second half from Bracey. Marvin Bracey, like a rocket through the second half. Didn't get a fabulous start, but boy, oh boy, did he tear them to bits through the last 50 metres. 997 is confirmed for Bracey.
And those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. Have yourself a peaceful night, but the broadcast is not yet over, as I do hand you back to my colleagues Tom Mboya and Betty Kiptum.
Thank you very much, Karen Kibet, fondly referred to as Marakwet Express.
Marakwet Express, indeed.
Yeah, we're the only one who are allowed to call her that, by the way. Remember, outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta will be remembered for steering many firsts during his presidency, amongst them the hallmarks, standard gauge railway between Mombasa and Nairobi, the automation of government services, and also setting up of the Huduma centers, yes, if you can remember. Tomorrow,
closer to the people, yes.
Tomorrow, Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to hand over the instruments of power to the incoming fifth Dr. William Samoei Ruto. We will be covering all those proceedings live from Broadcasting House. And we have our reporters, of course, who will be embedded at that function. So we'll be giving you blow by blow by blow account. I want to thank you for watching. On behalf of the entire team, thanks very much. My name is Tom Mboya from the capital city of Nairobi, Kenya. Good night. God bless.
My name is Betty Kiptum. Do have yourself a good night. Bye-bye.